You're watching the GameSpot co-op stage, sponsored by LEGO Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the GameSpot co-op stage, right here on the show floor at E3 2016. It's Thursday. I'm really sad and I can't believe it, but luckily I have two awesome guests to talk to. I have MatPat from the Game Theorists.
Two awesome guests and MatPat.
No, and MatPat and...
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
I guessed. I thought I worked here.
I think we've dropped in our valuation from esteemed to awesome.
Yeah.
We were esteemed in the first segment, and now we're awesome.
Don't worry, next time you'll be guests.
Yes, yeah, I'm here with two guests. Thank you.
Pests.
And then
Dave
by the fourth
Hewitt.
segment, just
Oh, I was hoping this one would be like the serious... No.
awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be real serious.
Thought-provoking guests.
Yes.
Insightful.
Really good use of
Thank you.
words here.
Thank you.
You're doing a better job than me. We're going to talk about new consoles, guys,
Okay.
because, I mean, admittedly, this...
No one else is.
Well, one person is.
One person did, yes.
Let's talk about the Scorpio and the Xbox One S, because that was a very strange reveal for me. Like, thinking about it now, you know, in the press conference, you're like, yes, new Xbox. It's going to be small. There's going to be no power brick thing. It's just going to be tiny, and you can stand it on its side. That's really cool. There's a new controller. And then you think, okay, but why are you announcing that and announcing a new, more powerful, like insanely more powerful model that's coming out next year?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that was exactly my problem with it, right? Is Xbox started their conference with, hey, here's this new exciting console that you want to get.
Yep.
And it ended its conference with a console that'll make the first console obsolete within the year.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? And I made the joke earlier about, like, no one else is talking about these consoles, but hey, Xbox talked about consoles enough for everyone else. So, like, thank you, Xbox.
It was a strange move, being like, hey, here's this thing that you guys have wanted for a while, and now here's the reason not to buy it. You're like, well, who's gonna get an Xbox One S now? Like,
I
just
don't know.
save your money and get the more powerful one. Give me the power brick. I'll keep the power brick if I can have a bigger console, a better console.
Yeah, a bigger with the highest quality pixels of all the pixels.
How many teraflops?
With six, I believe it was 6 teraflops.
I don't know.
I love the word teraflop.
Like, how many flops? Oh yeah, we got 6 teraflops.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, they also had... They can't show it because it won't be anywhere near done in development.
No.
I don't even know how all of that's going to fit in the box. So they, you know, but this One S is ready to go. I saw one in the flesh yesterday. It's very small. I like...
That's about it, right?
But the thing is, it is cheaper.
Yeah.
So Xbox, obviously, this console war, Sony just went woof.
Right.
So hopefully this is like an entry point.
Well, who's the Xbox One S appealing to, though?
Can I ask a question here?
Go on, then.
And this is me maybe showing my tech noobness. What does S stand for?
Slim, right?
There's Samsung S, but like every like new tech thing has an S attached to the end. Why is it always S? Is it slim?
Stands for
super
sick, bruv.
Great.
Xbox One, sick, bruv.
Wouldn't that be incredible
That
if
would
that's
be
actually what
incredible.
Like, I would have so much respect for a I would buy that.
If Phil Spencer...
Off of the name alone, if that was what it was, I would buy it off the shelves.
I just
would
have
buy
this
all
mental
of them.
image of Phil Spencer now. I can never,
so sorry
I can
for that.
never watch anything he's in the end. No, but I see what you mean. Like, there's an iPhone 6s.
Yes.
Does it mean special?
Special. I don't know. Is it slim? I could see it being slim, but all the phones are slim anyway, so I don't think one is necessarily S-ier than another.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
I think
also
that's a
quite-
question for the chat.
Yeah.
/ Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on the
Social
chat right
media.
now. Please tell us what the
Please
Xbox
help
Slim
us.
stands
Please help
for.
us.
But no, I found it really... I can see it as an easy entry point. It comes like the base model, which is, what, 500 gigabytes, which is the 299 version. There's a terabyte version. There's a 2 terabyte version, right? Okay, that's fine. But if you bought an Xbox One recently, would you feel shortchanged? You'd be like, oh, great, I should have saved my money. Got it cheaper and smaller and quieter. And
Absolutely. It's actually one of the things that happened to me in my early Nintendo days, actually. I was I was a diehard Nintendo person. I bought every console day of release. I was so stoked. When they first announced the Game Boy Advance back in the day, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's like holding a Super Nintendo in your hand. day one, got it, I love it, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about it. And then literally like 4 or 5 months later, they're like, oh yeah, the screen isn't backlit and it has a battery issue. Sorry about that. Here's the new Game Boy Advance SP or whatever, the special edition. SP again, that was special edition. But where we fixed all those problems. And so I've been so burned from buying consoles day one off of that experience, because they're like, oh, we're still working out gimmicks. And
was there not like any kind of buyback, money off thing for that?
Not that I was aware of. Like, maybe I was just uninformed at the time, but like to my knowledge, it was like, here's a functioning system with a couple of gimmicks that make it not as good. Here's a complete fix of it. I know. I guess I felt hurt.
That was the day before true like internet fan outrage, right? So they could sort of...
They could kind of slip it through. Yeah, I mean, you could send an angry letter to Nintendo Power with like some cool cover art on the letterhead and maybe get it included in like the letters at front. But yeah, there was nothing I could do. And so I've been burned on that sort of thing in the past. So I would feel the same way if I bought an Xbox One, you know, week before E3, I'm so excited, I'm going to get my Xbox One for all the new games that are going to be announced. And it's like, oh wait, by the way, here's 2 new consoles.
Do you guys have an Xbox One right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I do as well, but I mean, the Xbox One S isn't for me. Would you consider getting the Scorpio when it comes out next year?
That's the thing, like, when they announced the Scorpio, I was excited, although their announcement of the Scorpio is like the industry equivalent of like vague booking. They were like mentioning like all these figures without anything like
it was
really
an unhappy
specific.
face.
Oh my gosh.
Are you okay, hun?
They mentioned
so
VR
many
without like
buzzwords.
any details. It was like, okay,
many
VR,
buzzwords.
but like we need more than that.
Yeah.
And I just don't know who the Xbox One S is for, because if you've already got an Xbox One, you'll grin and bear it until the Scorpio.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you haven't got one, you'll just wait.
Yep.
Or you'll get a PS4, because really there's no huge games that are out right now to give you a reason to buy an Xbox One S. You've got all the reason in the world to wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just get a computer at this point. Like, honestly, everything's like, oh, you can play it on Windows 10.
Yeah.
Oh, you can play it on Xbox.
Yeah.
And if you're suddenly talking to me about teraflops and a pixel is a pixel, okay? You can't have higher quality pixels. Let's put it out there right now. Sorry, buzzwords, synergizing, whatever. Pixels
You just made someone at Microsoft really unhappy.
Pixels equal pixels. I'm sorry. That being said, you know, if you're talking to me about processing power and teraflops of, you know, whatever it is, then I'm just going to go get a PC at this point, because it's going to be a lot more flexible. It's going to be future-proofed a lot better. I'm going to be able to upgrade it. But it's getting to the point where consoles are trying to figure out ways to like differentiate themselves from PC, but they're not at this point. And so it's like, why wouldn't I just get like a really quality computer that does all of these things and also opens up the Steam library and all this stuff rather than
VR straight away.
Right? Yeah, VR straight away, and then I can also do my taxes on or whatever. You know, like seriously.
And like you said with the when Microsoft announced like all the games were now Xbox One and Windows 10 compatible, I'm like, Microsoft, you are giving me fewer and fewer and fewer reasons to turn my big ugly Xbox One on. I literally can't remember the last time I turned on my Xbox.
Right.
Which is
I
a
turned
shame
mine on
because
by
I was a massive
accident.
Xbox fan.
I turned mine on by accident just by walking past it. They have changed that. It's now a proper button. There's an actual effort involved.
That's good.
But what I find interesting is that now we've got Scorpio coming out next year. All games are now future-proofed. But what I'm interested in is there going to be exclusive Scorpio games, because... And then also this is a problem with the PlayStation Neo, right? Is that developers are essentially going to have to make 2 versions of the same game, or there's going to be some standalone titles that can only work on the better consoles, right?
I mean, I think that's... And Nintendo already went through it a little bit with the Wii and the... Shoot, what was it? It was the Wii and... GameCube before it? Where they did Twilight Princess on both Wii with motion controls, and also Twilight Princess no motion controls, just kind of standard standard gameplay.
Standard version.
And you always wind up with these kind of like weird hiccups in the system when you're trying to straddle 2 different like generations of console with 2 different graphical capacities, 2 different, you know, control structures, things like that. And so I worry, and when you mentioned earlier about Zelda Breath of the Wild having that simultaneous release on NX and Wii U, it's a fear that I share there. But especially with these, where it's like, here's things that are supporting super high-def gaming, as well as, and it's also going to apply to these kind of like other new, but not quite obsolete, but we're trying to make them obsolete system. It's just a weird time. I feel like the PS4, the Xbox One, this generation isn't over yet. It's still very new. There's still not that many games that I'm playing on these systems, and you already want me to invest in the next thing? It's a big ask, and at this point, I'd much rather just hop to another VR head. Like, to me, if I'm gonna hop to a new system or a new console, I'm saving that money for a VR headset.
What I find strange as well, it's because when everything was announced, it was like, no, PlayStation 4 is going to be around for 10 years. Xbox will be around for 10 years. And
Right.
damn, like, it's been like 3-4 years, man.
That's the weird thing with the Scorpio. They've announced a new console, but they're not calling it a new console.
Yeah.
It's just an extension of the Xbox One almost. Like, they're not adhering to the traditional console generations that we've all grown to just put up with. They're just like, well, we're still in the console generation. Here's sort of a new console, but not really. We're not making a big deal about it. But here's the Scorpio.
You know, you saying that just now actually reminds me of what Sega Genesis did back during the SNES Sega days, where it was, here's the Sega Genesis, and we're not doing a new console, but here's the 32X, here's the Sega CD, and you ended up having this just like massive beast of a system all cobbled together with all these add-ons and peripherals and whatever, and it was like, nope, this is still the same console generation, but it's still the Sega Genesis.
It's like, it's technically the same. It's just got add-ons, right? But I mean, for the life of me, I can't see that happening with Xbox. I can't see them saying, oh, hey, here's an extra box you can just plug in, right? Well, I mean, I guess they tried that with Kinect, and
I
still feel bad. But I mean, there was kind of no mention of Kinect, right? The Xbox One S has an a gap. It doesn't necessarily say Kinect, but you can get a free adapter to use it. They're putting Cortana on it on Kinect. No games in the pipeline.
I mean, I'm not really sad about that. Like, the main source of Kinect games was Rare.
Right.
Like, Rare was just making so many Kinect games.
Yep.
We always knew that Rare deserved better than that.
Yep.
It's kind of like they've just breaking free of their shackles and be like, Microsoft, just give us a chance to make
Put me
an
in,
actual
coach.
game.
Put me in.
Exactly. Like, no one's playing Kinect. They're just using their voice to control rubbish YouTube videos and watch their movies. Let us make a good game.
Did you
one's
just
using
say
the Kinect.
rubbish YouTube videos?
Not yours, of course.
Okay. As long as it's not mine, we're okay. We have no beef here.
No beef.
Or
have to
otherwise, I
separate
will
you two.
challenge you to Rare Sports Resort on Kinect. I don't know.
That's one of the bad ones, though. We'll go play Sea of Thieves.
That being said, though, and I think you're totally right about that, where VR to me is taking the place of Kinect, and I know we're going to talk more about that in one of the
hold the
upcoming
gold,
segments.
hold the gold.
But I do think that like what VR stands for and where it's going and where it's taking video games is taking the place of, you know, it's basically making obsolete Kinect and all those kind of motion control things, because now all of a sudden you have that motion control, but there's a new way to be immersed in the game world.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back, the only time I ever used Kinect, it's currently in a drawer. And when I first got my Xbox One, what I would do...
So that way it's not spying on you. And
Yeah,
you're, like,
no,
doing
I'm
stuff
genuinely
you
afraid
don't
of that. You know, I would... I think the Xbox One's snapping feature is genuinely brilliant. So I would be playing Lego The Hobbit, going for that 100%, and I would have Netflix snap to the side.
Yeah.
And I'd have Kinect turned on, and I would have the sound effects and all the music from Lego Hobbit turned right down, and I had have The Office, and I just went through like 3 seasons of The Office, and I would say, Netflix, play next episode. That was genuinely the only thing I used Kinect for.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
mine didn't
kinda
even work
sad.
that well. It'd be like, Xbox on. Xbox on. I'll just turn it
Yeah.
on.
Touch it.
Like-
Just touch it.
I'll just waft in that direction, it'll turn on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so are we surprised we didn't see anything from PlayStation Neo? They were all
No.
about the games this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, they already announced so much at their conference. Like, it was relentless.
Yeah.
It was almost... I mean, it was amazing, but it was almost too much because they announced so much so quickly. I've forgotten half of it because it was just too intense. If they also added hardware on top of that, it would like shadow everything else. And I think it's a smart move because now they get to see what Xbox are doing before they announce anything to do with their hardware.
I feel like that's what they did with their price point as well, though, right? Because Xbox announced how much the Xbox One was going to be. And you could just tell that someone at Sony made a slide in PowerPoint.
Open up
Just put it
Photoshop
in.
real quick.
And reduce it by $50. There
And
we
we're
go.
good, we're good. No, I mean, so who was it? It was Andrew House who announced to the Financial Times the weekend before. He said, yeah, definitely in the pipeline. I think developers must have it at this point. That's kind of the big reason that Xbox, because they're big on their third-party studios, they were saying, okay, Scorpio's definitely coming. We want to let you know so you can best create. So I'm interested to see like when we'll hear more about Neo.
Yeah.
Because Sony tried to make Paris Games Week a big thing for them last year. It didn't really pan out, but I'm interested to see if Gamescom is the time when they'll do it, right?
It wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo and Sony started dropping a few more reliable figures and some more data and maybe some screens of their stuff. I don't think that we'll see it physically in a good while.
Yeah.
But I think Gamescom will be when we start getting drip-fed more information. It's like I said, they've seen what Microsoft's doing. That Microsoft has shown their hand.
Yeah.
And Sony still doesn't really need to put it all out there.
Yep.
But I think it'd be smart of them to just be like, hey, this is happening.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
keep your eye on, the blue team.
Yep, I think that was, again, it was a smart move on Sony's part because it allowed their conference to really focus on the games, which was
Yeah.
something that, like we said in the earlier segment, was severely lacking in a lot of the other conferences this E3. We got a bunch of new consoles, we got a bunch of new announcements and DLC and add-ons and tweaks and new ways to play across multiple platforms.
Yep.
But we were missing new games, we were missing surprises, and so not having another rollout allowed them to emphasize, here's God of War, here's a bunch of games that you didn't expect coming, here's Resident Evil, and then also, here's our VR offering. Those two allowed you to focus, so that way their announcements weren't getting blurry with here's also a new console.
I think especially with the VR stuff, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but they don't want to make people think you have to buy a new console for
Right.
VR, right? They want you to think you have a PlayStation 4, you can get VR in. But what I find interesting is that Microsoft's press conference comparatively was about games that you can play within the coming months, whereas Sony was like, here are all these games with no release date apart from The Last Guardian, right?
Yeah.
I mean, although I think obviously the VR games, so Batman VR, I think Battlefront's coming out this holiday. Is that more of an effective technique? Does it keep us wanting, or is it just annoying?
I think that was one of the things that this E3 is missing and why it probably doesn't rate up to the level of last year's, which is there was no Fallout 4 this year. There was no, here's a game that you're super excited about that you can play literally a week from now or a month from now. I guess Ubisoft had Trials of the Blood Dragon.
I always love and it's available now.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited to play that. I'm excited to get my hands on it. It looks like a lot of fun, but it's no Fallout 4, right? It's not the title that's going to get you to be oh no, my next month is blocked off to play this game. So I was missing a little bit of that this year. Yeah.
Dave?
Like you said, the lack of the big surprise last year was Fallout 4.
Yep.
Nobody expected Shenmue 3 to happen, and then the real big wow moment was Kojima's game.
Yep.
And whilst that was incredible to see, it was the weirdest, vaguest trailer. We have no idea what this game is. Everyone was like, Kojima is back. That was the big thing. And but it's as amazing that is, it's not something you can get excited about.
Yep.
We just know it exists, but we have no idea what that game is.
No.
It's just this was Tease 3. It's not E3, it's Tease.
Tease 3, that's very
There's
good.
so many things that oh, this is coming, you're gonna get this whenever. So now it's just a period of waiting at this point.
or in 2017. I would be hard pressed to name more than 5 games that come to mind that were released in 2016. Everything was 2017, or like you said, no date at all. And so Tease 3.
Especially with
Is that a Dave Jewett original? Oh my
I
god.
do okay sometimes, especially with the EA one. They were we're working on loads of Star Wars games. I was cool, give them to me.
Right? We'll talk about them at some other point in time.
Yeah.
It's no, this is the time to do it. This is E3. This is when you want to say those things.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with that.
And somebody made a good point. I think it was Jeff Canada made a great point that PlayStation VR, they've got Batman and they've got Star Wars VR. If you can't sell something that has Batman and Star Wars, you ain't selling it.
Right?
That's true.
I think it's in Sony's court at this point.
It is, and also the launch, again, don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but 50 launch titles
That's
for the
insane.
VR. That's insane.
But that's what Oculus had, right? They had quite a substantial library, but Oculus has been in the wild essentially
Right.
to open to more developers for a lot longer. But let's talk a little bit about leaks and what we can and can't believe, because it seems every month or so it's, oh my god, NX concept released.
Yep.
Are you at the stage now where you're thinking, oh my god, this could be legit, or is it, no, I'm just not going to believe anything anymore?
Well, there was that time where somebody had photoshopped a Zelda screen onto that weird
It looked like Hey
oval
Arnold.
shape.
Yeah.
like Hey Arnold's head, and like loads of people were believing that, and people were like looking at the reflections of the trees and the metal and going way too far into it.
Yep.
It's got to the point where like leaks are just like almost a necessary evil. I think it's understood that sometimes they're done on purpose to like get hype for a game.
Yep.
They can be annoying because it kind of, steals away from the hype of E3. There was a lot of leaks that I wasn't surprised to see. There were some leaks that like I was surprised to see. I really hope that leaks don't become the norm in the industry, though. I like to be surprised at events like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like. I didn't realize that the whole Xbox new controller color thing, which I think is quite cool. Like it's a very simple thing to do, but it did surprise me, and I was like, okay, that's quite nice. I mean, this is my 53 now, right? And I'm still
Mine too, 50.
fifth, yeah. E5.
E5. T's 3,
Don't steal my
E5.
T3, E5. But no, it's like I still like to be surprised, because otherwise I don't want to be at a stage in my life where I'm not surprised by games. I'm not excited by them, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is meant to be the most exciting week of video games.
Christmas in June.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And whilst it is amazing, like the big things that everyone looks forward to, even more than getting hands-on in here, I think, is the conferences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that day one of conferences, like we were surprised by two things because everything was just leaked far too much.
Yep.
Even like small things, like I mentioned the Forza thing. They leaked a small image of a Lamborghini that was in black and orange.
Right.
Then when I came past the hotel, it was the Major from Xbox standing next to a Lamborghini that was black and orange, and I was like, okay, so Forza.
There it is.
Yeah.
No, but it's so true, and I think again this goes back to the idea of people trying to differentiate themselves during the noise of E3, right? These days, once the press conferences are done and everyone's getting hands-on coverage of this stuff, there's so much clutter in the space, there's so much noise, so much coverage, that everyone's trying to figure out ways to differentiate themselves or be first to market. And you're seeing, in a lot of ways, what traditional advertisers have done with the Super Bowl, where there are no surprises of commercials at the Super Bowl, where you've seen them all on YouTube, you've already shared them, you've already seen them on Facebook, whatever. And so you're seeing that start to happen with E3, with these leaks, with like early announcements. We all knew that Watch Dogs was coming. We all knew that
Battlefield, right?
Yeah,
we had
Battlefield.
a big look at Battlefield before it came out.
exactly. And so, like, it's getting earlier and earlier. Like, my E3 technically started on Sunday before anything started. And so, like, the leaks were going for weeks before that. And it's just one of those things that the actual days of E3 are becoming less relevant. And like you said, there is still that, like, I'm not seeing anything new here, in that attempt to kind of, like, get out from the noise and be, like, first to market, we're going to be this. So. Do I worry about it kind of like watering down this experience in this event? Are we in an era where there are no surprises? I hope that Sony's conference proved that we're not. Because everyone being so excited to see God of War and Resident Evil appear on Spider-Man, Crash Bandicoot, appear on stage, I think that shows that, hey, there is still room to surprise people during these conferences. And you see, we're talking mostly about Sony these days because they made such a strong impact in their conference, and not because they kind of like spoiled the surprise a week before.
Well, it's like your Super Bowl analogy is quite interesting because you have the halftime show, right?
Right.
You need a Beyonce.
Yes.
So that's what I like to think that the Sony and Microsoft.
Are you saying Sony is Beyonce?
I'm saying the press conferences are Beyonce, but specifically Sony is her Lemonade era, which is incredible.
Well, I was gonna say the press conferences are the actual Super Bowl halftime show, and the games are Beyonce. So you know that maybe some of them are coming, but then there's that surprise guest during the halftime show.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, it's Bruno Mars, and he shows up, and you're like, oh, that's sweet.
Or it's Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, or Snoop, or whatever. But yeah, it's the surprises are the special guest who, like, oh, it's Aerosmith walking on stage to do something with Lil Kim or whatever. Wow, what random musical artists that we've just drawn from.
I was gonna say Snoop Dogg's busy playing Battlefield 1 with his secret,
with his secret sauce. I know. I was actually there with him.
Did you see the interview? It was like, are you worried you're not going to be very good at the game? And he was like, ask me again in 15 minutes. And then in 15 minutes is the shot of him that we've all seen. It's like, okay.
Oh, yeah, bottom of the.
That's why you're not scared.
It was nice that we were able to pull him away. So he did the April Fool's prank for YouTube too. So it was like Snoop Vision. So he's just all over the place these days. Weird.
I love that.
Yeah.
This conversation has taken a tangent.
It has.
It
has taken a turn.
But don't worry, because next up we're going to be talking about VR.
Yes.
We are. So don't go anywhere, guys. Join us right back after this.